10,000 years ago, rank decided who ate first, who slept nearest to the fire, who was heard when the group made a decision, who had a choice, and who simply had to accept what remained. There was no job title, no interview, no negotiation. But everyone in that small group knew, with total clarity, exactly where they stood. And almost everyone was quietly trying to move up. Just slightly, just enough to matter more than they had yesterday. That drive never left us. Only the currency changed. Today, it isn't meat from a hunt. It's a title on a business card, a number of followers, a watch that costs more than it should, a promotion announced publicly, times just right. We call this ambition. But underneath ambition, something older is often running the show. To understand it, we have to go back. Not to offices or algorithms, but to small bands of humans moving across open land, dependent entirely on each other to survive. In these groups, status was not vanity, it was strategy. A person with higher standing typically had first access to food after a hunt, more say in where the group traveled next, more protection if conflict arose, more attention from potential partners, more help if illness or injury struck. Status meant something simple and brutal: fewer risks, more options. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies have found something surprising, though. Many of these groups were remarkably resistant to domination. A hunter who bragged too much could be mocked into humility. A person who tried to control others could be quietly excluded. Equality was often protected, deliberately, socially, even aggressively. But status itself never disappeared. It simply became quieter. The best toolmaker, the most skilled tracker, the person whose judgment others trusted when the sky changed color and a storm was coming. Respect was earned differently, but it was still ranked. This is the part modern life tends to forget. Humans didn't evolve to avoid hierarchy. We evolved to constantly, instinctively read it. Walk into any room today, and before you consciously think about it, your brain has already started scanning. Who speaks first? Who gets interrupted? Who receives eye contact, laughter, agreement? Who seems unshaken, even under pressure? This isn't idle curiosity. It's an ancient survival calculation happening in milliseconds. Because for most of human history, knowing your rank told you something critical. Was it safe to speak up? Could you take a risk? Would others back you or leave you exposed? Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky spent years studying primate hierarchies, and one of his central findings still echoes strangely in modern human life. Rank itself isn't what determines stress and well-being. Stability does. An animal or a person living near the bottom of an unstable, unpredictable hierarchy often experiences chronic stress. Not because they're powerless, but because they can never relax into their position. Sound familiar? The employee who checks email at midnight, afraid their value is temporary. The person who stays quiet in meetings, terrified of looking incompetent. The individual who overspends on appearance because looking less than feels more dangerous than debt. This is rank anxiety, wearing modern clothing. Now here's where biology gets specific. Serotonin, often mislabeled as simply the happiness chemical, plays a much stranger role in social animals. In several species, when an individual rises in social rank, serotonin activity increases. Behavior shifts. More confidence, more space-taking, less fear of confrontation. When status is threatened or lost, the opposite often occurs. Increased vigilance, increased anxiety, a kind of internal bracing. Humans are more complicated than any single hormone, but we are not exempt from this system. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, self-control, and social judgment, is constantly processing rank-related decisions. Should I speak now or wait? Should I downplay this achievement or highlight it? Should I post this or does it look like I'm trying too hard? This is exhausting work because unlike our ancestors, we no longer compare ourselves to 30 familiar faces around a fire. We compare ourselves to thousands. Curated, filtered, algorithmically amplified thousands. LinkedIn has become a modern hierarchy display. Optimized headlines, humble bragging captions, promotion announcements engineered for maximum visibility. Instagram turns luxury goods into status flares, visible to anyone scrolling past. Follower counts function like ancient trophies, measurable, public, comparable. The object rarely matters. The car, the watch, the followers. None of it is really about the item. It's a signal. I have resources, I have value, I belong somewhere near the top. And the exhausting part? The comparison never ends. There's always someone one rank higher. Someone with a slightly bigger account, a slightly nicer apartment, a slightly more impressive title. In a village of 30 people, you eventually knew your rank and could rest in it. In a digital world of billions, the hierarchy has no edges, no finish line, no moment where the brain can finally exhale and say, "This is enough." But not all status seeking is the same. There's a meaningful difference between two paths that can look identical from the outside. One person seeks status through contribution, competence, generosity, reliability. Another seeks status through domination, control, intimidation, superiority. One builds trust, the other often burns it. One asks, "What can I offer this group?" The other asks, "Who can I stand above?" Recognizing which question is actually driving you might be the most useful thing you do all week. Because the ancient hunger for rank isn't going away. It's wired too deep for that. But it doesn't have to run silently in the background, making every scroll, every comparison, every quiet moment of self-doubt feel like a survival threat. The next time you feel that flicker of, "I need to prove myself," pause for 1 second. Ask what you're really chasing. Mastery? Security? Belonging? Or simply the fear of being invisible? Because that fear of being overlooked, unranked, forgotten is often louder than the ambition itself. Status was never really about the top of the hierarchy. It was always about safety. You don't strive for success only because the modern world demands it. You strive because somewhere deep in your brain, rank still means survival. Your ancestors needed that instinct to eat, to sleep safely, to belong. You inherited the hunger without inheriting the danger that once made it necessary. And once you see that clearly, you get to decide what your status is actually for. A relic of the past, finally understood.